Hey, this is Stereo Police. I'm making this introduction to the next video. I'm making it after the fact because I had completed the entire part 2 of the power cord replacement, and YouTube found a copyright violation at the very end. It was a song I chose to demonstrate through the A-1000, and I guess YouTube, or the whoever it was, the owners didn't like it, and that's perfectly fine. I thought it was a song I could play, but it wasn't. I should have gone onto YouTube and typed it into their database to look at the rights management, but I didn't, and that's my fault. But anyway, so at the very end of this video, you'll see a section of maybe about 5 minutes or so that has been muted, and I apologize for that. My fault. But after that song was over, I did do some talking, and that will be muted as well. But that's here nor there. I think the video, that the part of the video that's not muted, is still useful, so that's why I'm posting this with the muted part at the end. My apologies. Enjoy. Ciao. Alright, hey, this is Stereo Police, back with part 2 and final of the power cord replacement on the Yamaha A-1000. And so yes, I've done a little bit of work here. I have, well, let's see, here's the new power cord. It's big, it's a beast. The wire gauge of the power cord was much bigger than what came off it. Let me get some glasses here so I can see. And I think it's well worth it. As I mentioned last time, it's well worth it to put this effort into this particular amp because it's so good. Anyway, so here's the power cord. Got it going in. I've got it going in. The grommet's a little loose, but it'll hold. And I don't know if you can see down there, but I put a couple of, let me get a flashlight here. I don't want to lift this thing up. I put a couple of zip ties on the back side of it. There you can kind of see them going around, those zip ties down there. There's 2 of them next to each other. Real tight. There they are, right there. Real tight, so they will pull against the grommet and provide the necessary strain relief. It shouldn't be an issue. You'd have to tug on that really hard to pull that out. And the wires, well, here's the green wire. I'm not going to be using it. I'll probably tape that up with electrical tape. I cut it, I just snipped it and put a wire nut over it so it wouldn't touch anything. I'll have to cap that off properly. And then here are the hot wire, the black one, and there's the neutral, the white. And so I've got the hot wire now. Yeah, I've got the hot wire soldered on here, and this is the unswitched outlet, and then there's your neutral soldered onto that side. Okay, so you've got that one on the right is the unswitched, and then there's a little bus, and these 2 guys here are connected, so the hot wire goes directly up to the switch. So the hot wire is being switched. And I managed to salvage that 0.01 microfarad capacitor. Even though I cut his little jacket off, I managed to put it back on. I'll probably put a little glue there to hold it. I imagine that jacket is for safety in the event that there's an arcing or a shorting of it. It would contain maybe some of the zap. Considering that that's placed directly across the 120 volt between the hot and the neutral, there's always that possibility. And like I mentioned in the last video, there are specific capacitors suppression capacitors that are designed for this job. I don't have any. They're really hard to get a hold of unless you buy them in bulk. And so I'm going to search around on eBay and try to find the proper capacitor for that, and one day I'll desolder that and put that on. Likewise for this capacitor here, same thing. I really should have a proper suppression capacitor for that one, but these are just old ceramic discs, and they have held up over the years, so you know, what the heck. But in the meantime, I went ahead and put it back on there because it came off. I wouldn't have taken it off had I thought that it was a suppression cap. I, for some reason, thought it was a varistor, as I mentioned in the last video. That was my mistake. I should have known better. Anyway, so there they are. I did the soldering. The soldering is not the best job in the world. I've never been that good of a solderer, and as I'm getting a little older here, I'm getting a little shaky, so it's kind of hard to do a extremely good job. Plus those wires were so incredibly fat. Just twisting them around the little the terminals there and getting them on was quite a job, but they're on there pretty good. I could have done a little better, but they will definitely hold. There's no strain on them. They're not going anywhere. Not the most professional looking job. And there you can get an idea of the gauge of the wire right there that that came out of it. That's about the gauge it came out of, and how fat these things are. So it's a very good power cable. So there you have it. Yeah, let me get a look at the underside. Okay, so yeah, here's the underside, and there are the zip ties that I told you about to provide the strain relief. It should be no issue at all. That turned out to be pretty good. That worked out really well. So that's it. I'm going to start reassembling. I'm going to make sure there are no little metal fragments floating around anywhere. Shake this thing real good and then put the bottom cover on and reassemble it. I'll give you a couple shots of that along the way, and then plug her in and test it. I don't want to do that until I get the bottom cover and the top cover on there in case something zaps. But there's, I mean, this is a pretty straightforward, simple job. There's nothing that really could have went wrong that I could see. It's just simply two wires. So, but hey, famous last words. Alrighty, so I've got the bottom cover on. The whole bottom cover is on there, and did some wire management right here. And there she is. Back in place. There's the capacitor. I moved it to the other side just for lack of room over here once I did my soldering. There's my ugly soldering there, but everything is holding up, and there's our power lines coming in, going right down there. No problem with strain. And this is the way these wires were right here. They just get tucked right along the edge, and the side panel holds them right there. I didn't have to cut any zip ties or anything like that. And so now I got to get the side panel on and that transformer cover plate, and then the top, and we're done. Everything else looks great, and we'll fire it up and watch the sparks fly. Alright, transformer cover plate on. And that's, I never realized that those two capacitors actually sit higher than these two. They should be the same value. That's interesting. I just noticed that. No biggie. Okay, top cover. And that's it. Okay, well, there she is. There she is right there. and plugged in right there. This thing's a monster. I never realized, now that it's on here, how fat this power cord is that I bought. But okay, first time. There's the click. That's the relays. And so far so good. Alright. So it's been sitting on my bench for a while. I think I really want to get this hooked up back into the system and sub this for the AS1100 that's been in there for well over a month now. I feel like listening to the A-1000 again. And so I think I will do that tonight and enjoy it. And as I mentioned in yesterday's video, I'd really love to address these horrible, terrible speaker binding posts. Like to address that in some form at some point. But not for today. It's time to actually listen to this amp again and enjoy it. But that's a project for another day. This one's definitely a keeper. I'm not getting rid of it. Unlike so many other pieces of equipment that I've had, so plenty of time to get around to solving all these little nits. Okay, well, anyway, I hope someone found that to be beneficial. Like I said, I think it's well worth changing out the power cord. That other one is so it was like 8 feet of power cord that was such a small gauge wire, and not only that, I've now got it properly polarized so that the hot wire is switched by the power switch, which is the way it ought to be. In the previous configuration, it was a crapshoot. You had a 50-50 chance of getting it right because the plug was not polarized. So it was worth it for that alone. But also worth it to know that I have a fat power line that runs that 8 feet instead of that thin gauge stuff. So if you know, I don't know whether it'll be psychological or not, but at least I'll know in my head that there's no restrictions of current flow to the transformer based on the power cord anymore. So maybe I'll get a psychological boost out of that, which I think is important in high-end audio. I'm beginning to appreciate the psychological aspects of things, of certain things. And hell, if you believe something is real, then it is. Maybe I'll hear a difference. Maybe I won't. And if I do hear a difference, can I really attribute it to the power cord? I don't know. What the hell, I will. Alright, thanks for watching. I'll be back with another video soon. Ciao. Yeah, you know, I had it all put back together again. And then something was bugging me. And it was that damn capacitor. That damn capacitor again. I got the cover on. I looked down there like, that thing is being pushed on by the transformer cover. It was kind of pushing down on it. I'm like, that's not good. That's not professional. Having a continuous stress on the cap by this thing here. So I took it all apart together. Took it apart again, and I moved that cap over here. And he's all by himself, not touching anything really. And now this cover rests a little better. Which it should, and I'm sure this is here for shielding. You can even see twisted pair wire right here, which means it's noise sensitive. It wants to be shielded. So I wanted to get that cover on there right and move that cap out of the way, and then anyway, so I'm just neurotic about these things. So anyway, and one other thing I want to show you for those of you who have the A-1000, this is a better view of the speaker binding posts, and this is the big issue with them. As you can look, you can see in there, you know, these plastic pieces are broken right here. There's supposed to be a little plastic. They're all broken up here. Maybe you can see it right there. There's supposed to be a little piece of plastic right there that allows the speaker wire to be pinched and not touch the metal case. Well, you can see up here they're broken, and it came that way. I didn't break them, but I guess they're vulnerable and susceptible to being broken. So you can see that, you know, if you put a wire down in there and pinch it and screw in the binding post, that wire comes really close to shorting out on the chassis. In fact, it would short out on the chassis. Let me just screw this in. And yeah, you can see right there that it pushes it against the chassis because those binding posts are broke. So that is super dangerous. And that's one of the things I was referring to in the previous video, and maybe earlier in this one, that I'd like to address. So fortunately, and I have actually, I believe I've shorted the speakers out at least once, because I remember moving the receiver just a little bit. It was sitting in place, and I moved it just a little bit on its shelf, and then the speaker protection kicked in. I heard the relays, and the thing wouldn't work. And I'm sure that's what happened. So that's something to really watch out for if you have an A-1000. And that's a job for another day, as I mentioned earlier. But anyway, so this is the finished, well, close to the finished product. I'm going to put the cover on and get it hooked up in the system. And as I mentioned, actually listen to it and enjoy it. I love this amp. Anyway, that's the end of this one. I don't know, maybe it's after work right now, so maybe I'll get a picture of it in the system working. Depends on how I feel to wrap the video up. Ciao. Alright, so now I'm just simply making an unnecessary portion of the video that has nothing to do with the A-1000 power cord. Now I'm just sort of talking about a whole lot of nothing, but there's a clean, well, not quite clean, but there's an empty workbench. First time in a while I've had that. I still have a lot of junk to clean up. Things to put away. There's my old Minimus 10, whatever they were, I forget, that I restored in a video way back in the day. There are some speaker cables there that were given to me by my brother-in-law, who no longer uses them. Tons of stuff. I don't even know what all this junk is. I don't even remember where it came from. But anyway, there's Jasper. So there's the A-1000. I want to get it substituted in for the AS-1100. And I was going through one of my boxes. I moved here about 2 years ago in my present location. And I found some of my books. Some of these I'm going to recommend to you if you are able to get a copy of them. You know what? There's one more upstairs I forgot to bring down. Okay, I just ran upstairs to get a couple more books because I want to kind of have my audio book collection on this shelf, this empty shelf right here. And these are all books on audio. And I've got more of them. I don't know where they are. They're not textbooks. All my old college textbooks are here, and there, and some of them are there, and some are there. And a lot of these are college. Hey. Communications, pre-calculus, calculus. I remember taking that color and black and white class, digital image processing. Oh man, these are the textbooks. You can see that I still even read them. This is the exercise room, and when I sit here and ride the exercise bike, I actually still read these damn things. Depending on what I'm doing, sometimes I want to brush up on some of the old theory. But these aren't textbooks, these are audio books, and some of them are really interesting. And you know what I find is that some of the really old ones, like this one, High Fidelity Simplified, are really, really fun to look at. You know, they have pictures of the old equipment, and you know, to read about high fidelity the way it was back in the 50s. I love those old horns, what do you call them, concentric horn loaded speakers. Who does it say that's from? University Loudspeaker. Yeah, it's a classic old company. But some of this information is still relevant, still good. I don't know where I picked this book up, but these are really fun to read. Sometimes when I'm just sitting around listening, I'll just pick up one of these old books just to flip through, look at the pictures, maybe even read an article or two. 1952, 1954. That one I love. Valve amplifiers, designing and building loudspeakers, high power amplifier construction manual, audio amplifier design handbook, the electronics of sound, that's an old Radio Shack book, building speakers, advanced speaker systems, understanding audio and video, power supplies. What fell down there? High power audio amplifiers. These are the old Glass Audio books. Glass Audio magazine, which is a magazine about tube amps that was out years and years ago. I subscribed to it, but you know, they went out of business quickly. Vacuum Tube Logic, VTL, the company. David Manley of the company wrote a book about vacuum tube circuits, tube audio design. Here's another one I highly recommend. The Science of High Fidelity. This is really, really good. It's still relevant today for the most part. I think it was written as a textbook, but for a college physics class. What is the copyright? If you could find a copy of this, 1981 is the latest copyright. This is really cool, this book, The Science of Hi-Fi. Here's another good one. Hi-Fi loudspeakers and enclosures. What is the copyright of this? I love looking at some of the pictures in here. They have a lot of the old classic large loudspeakers and some of the loudspeakers that people built into their closets back in the day. 1956 and 1968 was the latest copyright. I mean, you know, really cool old drawings back before CAD, you know, and there were actually draftsmen that would draw these really nice photographs or nice diagrams, and look at that. That's a horn-loaded woofer. Sorry, I don't have my right glass. That's Altec Lansing. Okay, there you go. Description of the different cabinets, and anyway, I can just look through this stuff forever. That's a great book. Testing loudspeakers. And this here I kept because this is the last ever Radio Shack catalog. The last Radio Shack catalog ever before they stopped producing catalogs and just went to completely online, ever-changing catalog. And this was trying to look for the year 2002. Before that, Radio Shack was pretty cool. Oh, yeah, that's pretty cool. My camera, my camcorder, my crappy old little Sony camcorder found found her face. It's got a little square around it in the viewfinder. That's pretty cool. But that's back when Radio Shack really ceased to be Radio Shack. Back in 2002. Of course, now they're totally defunct. Audio and Hi-Fi, Engineer's Pocket. Oh, here's another great one right here. Speaker enclosures, how to build. Again, cool diagrams. They actually give you plans on how to build certain things, and there's description of theory and that sort of thing. And these books, these hi-fi books, these loudspeaker books here, were written before before the teal small parameters were really really came to fruition, which I think was in the 70s. So it was before we used the the teal small parameters to actually design enclosures and decide on the volumes and duct port lengths and diameters and that sort of thing. But loudspeaker design cookbook and design of tube preamps for guitar and bass, which has despite the guitar and bass part, it has a lot of great information about tube amps that are relevant to audio tube amps as well. This is a really good book, and I've got more books around in boxes somewhere, so it's really, I'm keeping these three out. I love looking through these old ones. These old ones are great. But if you can find this one, that's really, there's a lot of good stuff in there. It uses just basic math and it's fundamental physics, nothing. But it really covers all aspects of hi-fi. Of course, not digital, because digital wasn't really invented yet back when this book came out. But it covers everything. I mean, table of contents, waves and sound, the anatomy of a hi-fi system, waves and interference, decibels, and loudspeakers, electricity, amplifiers, tuners, electromagnetism, playing a record, tape decks, mechanics in high fidelity. A lot of good stuff. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get this receiver, this A-1000, put it in the system, and get it fired up to see if I can hear a difference with the brand new power cord. But I just thought I'd reminisce through some of these some of these books and show you some and recommend some just for nostalgia to have around. It's kind of cool to have these around in the listening room. At least I think so. I really enjoy looking through them. Anyway, we'll go ahead and get this thing put in the system, which is a real pain in the ass to move that AS1100 and put this in, but well, I got nothing else to do right now.